I was her second husband, but most days I felt like the third wheel in a two-person marriage. That should have been my first red flag. My name's Grayson, and for 3 years I told myself I was being the understanding type. Translation: I kept lowering the bar and then applauding myself for stepping over it. Alara had a 5-year-old son, Liam, from her first marriage to Marcus. Liam is a good kid, polite, sticky, and obsessed with dinosaurs that roar so loud the neighbors think we're raising a zoo. I like the kid. I like him enough to learn the difference between a triceratops and the pointy one, and to sit through 2 hours of a cartoon where everyone talks like helium balloon. We didn't have kids of our own. No big backstory there. Work, timing, life. But when you don't have a shared toddler who smears jam on your soul, it turns out you also don't have a ready-made excuse for certain boundaries. Alara had one. Liam needs stability. That sentence was the Swiss Army knife of our marriage. It opened any door and cut through any objection. At first, it was normal co-parenting stuff. Pickups, drop-offs, school emails with 12 attachments nobody reads, and soccer practices where 5-year-olds perform interpretive dance with a ball and call it sports. I drove, I clapped, I carried snacks. I did the whole bonus parent routine because I believed in the concept. You love the kid, you support the mom, you don't turn into a jealous statue every time her past walks by. Then the calls started getting longer. Bedtime check-in, Alara would say, walking to the bedroom with her phone. 15 minutes became 40. 40 turned into a full episode of a show plus the recap. Sometimes she laughed in that soft, familiar way. The laugh I used to think was mine to earn. I thought you were talking about bedtime, I said one night when she finally came back to the living room. We were. Also school, and Halloween costumes, and things. Things like what? Grayson, he's Liam's father. We communicate. That's what emotionally mature adults do. Cool. Next time, maybe do it before midnight. She rolled her eyes. You want Liam to feel abandoned? Ah, the Swiss Army knife. Difficult to argue with a blade labeled, "Don't you love the child?" It didn't help that Marcus always seemed to have a problem that required same-day attention. Soccer cleats emergency. Teacher wants to talk at 7:15 p.m. I made chili and Liam's tummy hurts. Can you come over? The last one really got me. I tried being zen. I even Googled how to not be a controlling stepdad and got articles clearly written by people who have never met Marcus. I decided to talk like a rational adult. Hey, I said one Saturday morning while we stood in the kitchen pretending oatmeal was food. I'm all for co-parenting, but lately it feels like you and Marcus are, I don't know, a lot. A lot of what? Time, access, decision-making. I find out plans after you two make them, it's for Liam. Everything can't be for Liam. At some point it's just for Marcus. Wow, she said. Do you hear yourself? You're jealous of a man because he's being a good father. No, I'm annoyed at a man who thinks he's still the husband. She gave me the look that says conversation over. The look had a twin, the sigh. Together they could end any debate in under 10 seconds. Rowan, my best friend, came by that afternoon with a six-pack and a face that said he smelled drama. You look like a guy who lost an argument to a TED Talk, he said, dropping onto the couch. I told Alara that Marcus is a lot. She told me I hate children. Do you? No. Okay, then you're fine. Also, stop having serious conversations near oatmeal. That stuff ruins morale. Rowan's wisdom is 90% jokes and 10% sniper shots. He looked at the hallway where Alara had disappeared with her phone again. You gonna do anything? He asked. I don't want to be the jealous type. Jealous is when your ego is hungry. This looks more like being low on respect calories. I laughed. What are you, a feelings nutritionist? Certified, he said. Bill me with beer. That night, the bedtime check-in lasted an hour. When I walked past the bedroom to grab a charger, I heard Alara laugh again. Soft, private, like a sweater you only wear with one person. I stood there, and for the first time, the laugh didn't hurt. It clarified. I didn't kick down the door. I didn't make a speech. I opened my notes app. Call length 62 minutes. Topics overheard. Pumpkin patch. Dentist. Remember when? Ah, yes. Remember when. The battle cry of emotional archaeology. I'm not a spy. I'm a boring guy with a decent memory and a belief that patterns tell the truth people won't. Over the next few weeks, I started documenting. I noted times, cancellations, and those tiny insults that don't look like much alone, but form a mosaic when you step back. Canceled date night. Marcus had a rough day. Liam's clingy. Pushed our weekend trip. We should wait until Marcus finishes settling Liam into his new bedtime. Asked Marcus about car choice before asking me. He knows safety ratings. Asked Marcus about school choice before asking me. He knows the principal. I didn't confront her with the list. I just stopped arguing with air. When you fight someone's justification, you become the villain in their story. When you collect facts, you become the narrator. One Wednesday, I came home with Liam after soccer. Ilara's car wasn't there. No big deal. I made grilled cheese, we watched dinosaur videos, and Liam explained to me he was a velociraptor and I was salad. Ilara came in at 8:30, the kind of, I was driving fast late where keys clatter like guilt. "Hey, traffic," she said, breathless. "Where from?" "Marcus's." Homework meltdown. "Homework at 5? Don't start." I didn't. She kissed Liam, sent him to brush his teeth, and then lowered her voice. "I don't like your tone. I don't like our schedule being shaped around another man's meltdowns." "Grayson," she said, and it came out as a warning, like I was a toddler reaching for an outlet. "Tell me this," I said. "When there's a decision about our life, who do you check with first?" She stared, then shook her head, annoyed. "This is ridiculous. Who do you call first when something big happens?" "I'm not having this conversation." "Right. You already had it with him." She walked past me, phone buzzing again, as if the universe paid her to underline my point. I didn't stop her. I took another note. 2 days later, I got an email from school about a parent conference. I hit reply to ask for a different time. 10 minutes later, the teacher wrote back, "No worries. Ilara and Marcus asked to move it next Tuesday." See you then, I hadn't asked to move it. I circled the sentence in my mind with a red pen. Rowan and I grabbed tacos that night. He listened without interrupting, which is how you know a friend has switched from comic relief to witness. "So what are we doing?" he said, besides turning into a spreadsheet with facial hair. "I don't know." "You do. You're collecting receipts because talking doesn't work. Talking doesn't work when someone's already decided what the truth is. You need a different tool. The tool being? Reality. Also, maybe a lawyer who wears expensive shoes and says, 'Interesting' after every sentence." "Relax," I said. "I'm not there." He shrugged. "Just saying, people don't announce problems. They announce priorities. And she's announcing them with her calendar the next week. Marcus needed help, moving a couch at 10 at night. Ilara grabbed her keys. "I'll be back in 50 minutes, she said like she was quoting an Uber ETA. "Is Liam there?" "No, he's at his mom's, with me tomorrow. This is for his room. So you're going to your ex's apartment to move furniture after dark. You're being dramatic." "Okay, carry on. Say hi to the couch." She left. I wrote down the time. I stared at our wedding photo on the shelf, the one where we look like we can't believe we pulled it off. I took it down, dusted it, put it back. Then I went to the garage and organized sockets by size because some men drink, and some men align their tools with religious accuracy. The pattern kept building. I got quiet. Not cold, not petty, just quiet. It was interesting how much noise faded when I stopped trying to be convinced. I became weirdly easy to be around. Even Ilara said I seemed chill, and I was. I had moved from the complaint phase to the data phase. One afternoon, Liam and I were stacking blocks, and he said in his serious 5-year-old voice, "Father says I should sleep at his house more because he has the blue nightlight." "Do you like the blue nightlight?" I asked. "I like you reading dinosaur books," he said. He looked at me like this solved something and went back to building a tower that had strong opinions about gravity. The very next day, Alara dropped Liam off at Marcus's for the night. She said he'd been having a hard time lately, so they agreed he should spend more evenings there. I didn't argue. That evening, I was stacking blocks by myself, out of habit more than anything, when the house felt too quiet. Around 9, Alara texted that she'd be late. Marcus asked if I could help with bedtime since Liam's adjusting. Then she added a heart emoji. I stared at the tiny red cartoon like it was yelling at me in high pitch. When she came home, I asked, "Why the heart emoji?" She blinked. "Are we policing punctuation now?" "Right, because nothing says helping my ex with bedtime like a heart emoji." "Grayson, I'm tired." "Me too." A week before our anniversary, I found an email thread where she discussed switching our vacation dates, again, with the teacher and Marcus. I was CC'd on the confirmation after they chose the new week. It would have been generous if I'd been a co-worker. As a husband, it felt like I'd been promoted to person who gets informed. I didn't confront her. I highlighted the email, printed it, and slid it into a manila folder labeled "Just in Case," my growing archive of every time I was treated like an afterthought. If this seems dramatic, I'd like to remind everyone that adults are just children with better printers. Nora, her sister, stopped by one evening with a casserole that could stun a horse. "She looks tired," Nora said softly when Alara went to put Liam's shoes away. "Be patient with her." "I've been patient. I'm a patience expert. You know this is for Liam, right? He's 5. He needs his parents. He needs boundaries," I said. Nora sighed. "You've always been intense about rules. And you've always been intense about forgiving Alara before she apologizes." I smiled to keep it light. "We're all doing our best." She stared at me like she wanted to say something mean and loving at the same time. A sister move. "Just don't make her choose." "She already did," I said, mostly to myself. Our anniversary plan was simple. Dinner with both families at the same restaurant where we'd had our first date. Outback Steakhouse. Romance with a coupon. I didn't care. I liked the memory. I liked the nostalgia of ordering the same steak and making the same joke about how the bloomin' onion is a vegetable if you pray hard enough. The day of, my dad Douglas called. My dad is classic old school. Firm handshake, boots that never die, and moral math that adds up fast. "Proud of you," he said. "For what?" "For sticking it out. For being steady. I don't know all the details, but I know you." I appreciate it. I didn't tell him I had a folder of my marriage like it was a tax audit. He would have approved, and that felt worse. My mom Martha texted hearts and a picture of the cheesecake she was bringing, just in case. Moms know when a celebration needs backup dessert. Before we left, I looked at Alara. She was beautiful, no use pretending otherwise. She had that calm, curated look that tells you she can host a party and a crisis at the same time. I thought about the first time I saw her, the way she'd laughed then too, except the laugh had landed on me, not past me. "Ready?" she said. "Yeah," I said. I didn't bring the folder. I didn't plan a speech. I planned to eat steak and not start wars. The restaurant was warm and loud in a good way. Families, birthdays, a toddler debating whether to cry for sport. Our parents hugged, Nora hugged twice, and Liam showed me a plastic T-Rex from his pocket like a cop flashing a badge. We ordered, we joked. My dad started a toast because he cannot be stopped from toasting. It's a personal brand. "To love that grows," he began, "to the kind of partnership that chooses each other every day." "I need to say something," Alara said, interrupting with a small smile that felt rehearsed. Everyone looked at her. I looked at her. She took a breath the way people do when they've practiced. I just want everyone to understand something, she said. Marcus will always have access to me through Liam. That's not negotiable. If anyone has a problem with that, including my husband, they can leave. Silence arrives in two flavors. The kind that invites a response and the kind that carries its own ending. This was the second kind. My dad's glass was midair, the watermelon slice of a smile frozen on his face. My mom set a napkin down very carefully like she was defusing a bomb. Nora's mouth opened, then closed, then tried again like bad Wi-Fi. Liam poked his T-Rex into mashed potatoes because he's an artist. I looked at Alara. She looked back like she'd finally said the smart, adult thing she'd been waiting to say, and now I would adjust my expectations accordingly. Okay, I said. Calm, easy. Good luck. I put my napkin down, took out my wallet, and placed enough cash to cover everything. Steaks, sides, dessert, the brief life and death of the onion. I stood. Grayson, Alara said, half warning, half plea. I nodded to my parents, to Nora, to the waiter who suddenly understood he was witnessing a documentary. I didn't make a speech. I didn't explain. I walked out. Outside, the air was cooler than I expected. I stood for a second and listened to the restaurant noise behind me, the clatter, the laughter, the soft panic at table 12. Then I walked to my truck with that light feeling you get when you finally stop carrying the end of something. On the drive home, I didn't get angry. The opposite. I felt clear. People talk about clarity like it's a sunrise. Sometimes it's just a room with the lights on and no furniture left to trip over. I parked, went inside, made coffee I did not need, and sat at the kitchen table. The house felt like it had taken a deep breath after holding one for months. I didn't open the folder. I didn't need to. Tonight was the headline. The folder was the footnotes. Around midnight, the door opened. Alara walked in fast, like speed could fix tone. "We need to talk," she said. "No," I said, sliding the manila folder onto the table like a dealer who's done playing. "We really don't." Her eyes went to the folder, then to me, then back to the folder. "What is that?" 6 months of knowing, calls, messages, plans I learned about secondhand, decisions where I was the +1 to my own life. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been paying attention." She pulled out a chair, sat, and folded her arms. "This is insane." "Tonight wasn't insane," I said. "Tonight was a declaration." "I respect declarations. I meant Liam," she said, voice cracking like she'd practiced that part too. "He's 5. He needs his parents to work together. He needs his parents to know the difference between working together and living together. I'm not cheating on you. I didn't say you were. So what is this? This is me not being the second husband in a 2-husband marriage." She blinked. "That's not fair." "No, it isn't." She stared at the folder like it might give her better lines. "What do you want?" I pulled a second, thinner stack from the folder, the papers I'd picked up that afternoon when a voice in my head whispered we might need them. "I want out," I said, and placed the divorce papers on top. "I'll file Monday morning." Her face went white, then red, then white again, like a flag choosing sides. "You can't be serious." "I'm not joking. I left jokes at the restaurant. You're going to throw away our marriage over a sentence taken out of context?" "You gave it context." In front of witnesses, she reached for my arm. "Grayson, please. This is a mistake." "Some mistakes you make in private," I said. "Some you make on your anniversary." "You picked the second kind?" She pulled her hand back like I burned. I was emotional. "No, you were clear." For a moment she looked like she might say the one true thing that could have mattered. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Reflex habit. Gravity. I stood. "I'm heading out for the night," I said. "Where are you going?" "Rowan's place." "At this hour?" "Yeah. He's got beer, a spare couch, and zero interest in emotional drama. I think I'll survive." "Grayson, please don't leave." "You told me anyone who didn't like your arrangement could leave." I'm just following directions. I grabbed my keys and walked out. The night air felt lighter than it should have. Rowan's couch wasn't built for comfort, but at least it didn't talk back. He tossed me a blanket and a beer, the universal male version of therapy. "So," he said, "you finally dropped the nuke?" "I didn't drop anything," I said. "She did. I just left before the fallout." He nodded like he'd been waiting for that line for years. "You sure you don't want whiskey instead of beer?" "It goes better with divorce prep." "It's not divorce prep," I said. "It's clarity prep. Same hangover, different paperwork." We watched an old baseball game on mute, both pretending to care. Around midnight, he turned off the TV. "You're sleeping here, right?" "Yeah." "Bathroom's down the hall. If you cry, keep it quiet. I told the neighbors I only take in strays, not soap opera extras." "Good night, Rowan." "Good night, soon-to-be legend." I woke up at 6 to a phone buzzing like it had a grudge. 12 missed calls, 5 voicemails, all from Alara. Texts followed. "We need to talk. Please don't do anything stupid." I didn't mean it the way it sounded. "Where are you? Liam's asking for you?" "Yeah, sure. 5-year-olds wake up asking about divorce logistics." Rowan shuffled into the kitchen in a t-shirt that said, "I'm not wrong, I'm just louder." He poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs. "So, what's the plan, Mr. Freedom?" "I'm going home later to grab some stuff. Then I'm calling a lawyer." He raised an eyebrow. "A lawyer? Damn. You're skipping the trial separation and going straight to the season finale. She said her ex will always have access to her. I'm just giving her what she wanted, less me." Rowan grinned. "You always were a man of principle?" Painfully so, I sipped coffee. "Principles are cheaper than therapy." "True. But therapy comes with softer couches." When I drove home, her car was gone. Probably took Liam to Marcus's, parenting, bonding, damage control, who knows. The kitchen looked the same, except the divorce papers were still sitting on the table where I'd left them. She hadn't even moved them. That was clarity enough. I packed a small suitcase, clothes, laptop, toothbrush, the manila folder, the just-in-case one. It felt heavier than paper should. Then I sat at the table again, because apparently I liked repeating bad memories. Phone buzzed again. Dad. "Hey, son," he said. His voice was steady but careful. "Your mother and I talked last night." "That sounds dangerous. She made me promise not to drive over there and say something stupid." "Thanks. I'm fine." "I doubt that." "She made an announcement." I said good luck and left long pause. Then a low whistle. "Can't say I blame you. No man should have to compete for first place in his own marriage." He sighed. "You want me to come help pack?" "I'm good." "You sure?" "Yeah, I'm not angry, Dad. Just done." He hesitated. Done can be a good place to be. When we hung up, Mom texted 30 seconds later. "Proud of you for standing up for yourself. Come by for dinner tonight. I made lasagna. Moms measure emotional damage in pasta portions." By 10 a.m., I was sitting in an office downtown with a guy named Elliot, the lawyer I'd worked with years ago on a business deal. "So, you already gave her the papers?" he asked, flipping through the folder I'd brought. "Last night," I said. "I just need to make it official." "Good," he nodded. "Better to let me handle the filing. That way she can't claim you acted out of emotion." Trust me, there was 0 emotion left. He smiled faintly. "Then you're already ahead of most clients." I slid the papers across his desk. "Make it clean, make it quick." "That," Elliot said, "is my favorite kind of divorce." "So," he said, flipping through the papers I'd brought. "She said this in front of witnesses?" "Yep, anniversary dinner. My parents, her sister, 2 friends." He raised an eyebrow. "She must be a fan of open declarations." "You could say that." He leaned back, whistled low. "That's either the most honest thing she's ever said or the dumbest." "Little of both, I think." He started going through my folder. "Phone logs, emails, cancellations. Impressive. You've got better records than most detectives." I had time. He nodded. You realize this makes the case straightforward. You file for divorce, cite irreconcilable differences, and we emphasize the pattern, her prioritizing another man's input over yours. That's the plan. Do you want to go after assets? No, I just want out clean. He studied me. You've been paying for the house, bills, groceries, for her and the kid. Yeah, but Liam's 5. He didn't ask for this circus, true. Still, you've been financially supporting a system where another man held the steering wheel. That matters in negotiations. I don't want revenge. Good, Elliot said. Revenge is messy. Clarity's cleaner. He flipped another page, then smiled slightly. You know, she's going to go through stages. Anger first, then bargaining, maybe even performative guilt. And at some point she'll try to pull the family card. You're abandoning the child. I'm ready. Are you? Elliot, I've been ready for months. I just didn't have the soundtrack yet. He chuckled. I like you, Grayson. Most clients come in crying or quoting self-help books. You come in with spreadsheets. Spreadsheets don't lie. They also don't love you back. Exactly why I trust them. By the time I left, the sun was bright and unbothered, like the universe hadn't even noticed my marriage exploded. I got back in the truck, opened my phone, and there it was again. 6 new texts from Alara. Please pick up, we can fix this. Liam's upset, you're overreacting. I'll set boundaries, I promise. Please, I love you. I didn't reply. I forwarded them to Elliot, then turned the phone off. On the drive to my parents' place, I stopped at a light and realized I was smiling. Not because it was funny, because it was over. The kind of over that doesn't ache, it exhales. Mom's lasagna helped too. Dinner was quiet, but warm. My parents didn't pry much. Dad just said, "You'll sleep better tonight." He was right, I did. I crashed in my old bedroom. Same posters, same creaky ceiling fan that sounded like it had asthma. I thought I'd lie awake replaying everything, but instead, I dreamed about something simple, sitting in silence without waiting for a phone to buzz. When I woke up, there were no new messages. Just sunlight through the blinds and the smell of coffee from the kitchen. For the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. By Tuesday morning, Alara had changed tactics. The crying texts stopped. Now, it was damage control mode. Calm, professional, like she was writing a PR statement instead of saving a marriage. We both said things we didn't mean. Maybe we should go to counseling. Liam deserves stability. Please don't file yet. I stared at the screen and laughed quietly. She wasn't apologizing. She was negotiating terms. It read less like regret and more like, let's not ruin the optics. At noon, her sister Nora called. Nora always started conversations like a therapist and ended them like a prosecutor. Hey, Gray, she said softly. Can we talk? Sure. You want to talk as Alara's sister or as an independent consultant in emotional disasters? She sighed. You're angry. Not really. Anger's for people still hoping to fix things. Okay, fair. Look, Alara told me what happened. Her version or the one with witnesses? She said you left after she made a comment. A comment? I said. She gave a speech that could qualify as a marriage exit interview. Nora hesitated. She didn't mean it that way. She meant it exactly that way. That's the beauty of clarity. You can't misquote it. She took a breath. She's just scared, Gray. Liam's 5. He's attached to both parents. She's trying to keep things normal for him. I get that. But normal doesn't include your ex-husband having VIP access to your life. She's doing what she thinks is best. And I'm doing what I know is necessary. There was a pause, long enough for both of us to hear our own thoughts. Then Nora's voice softened. You really think there's no way back? Nora, she made her choice in front of everyone we know. I'm just respecting her boundaries, like she asked. She sighed. You sound calm. I'm finally not auditioning for someone's approval. Calm comes with that. Later that evening, Rowan dropped by my parents' house. He didn't knock. He just walked in, holding 2 coffees and a bag of takeout. That's how you know a man's divorced or about to be. He stops knocking, he said. I smirked. You're early for the victory parade. Hey, I bring comfort food and judgment-free sarcasm. That's friendship. He sat across from me, glanced at the folder lying on the table. That the famous evidence pile? Yeah, 6 months of me realizing I was a background character. He opened it carefully like it might explode. Damn, you even have timestamps. Patterns don't lie. He flipped a few pages. You really kept everything? I wanted to be sure I wasn't crazy. And? I wasn't crazy, just patient. He looked up. You know she's gonna spin this, right? Probably tell everyone you were paranoid. I know, but I've got facts. Facts don't need PR. He grinned. Man, you're turning heartbreak into a spreadsheet again. It's cheaper than therapy. He raised his cup. To emotional accounting. I clinked mine against his, and 0 balance owed. A few hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a speech. Just one line. I miss you. I looked at it for a long minute. Then I turned the screen off. It wasn't that I didn't care. It's that I finally understood the difference between missing someone and missing the peace you had before them. By the weekend, I'd stopped counting messages. Elliot texted to confirm the papers were officially filed. It felt weirdly anticlimactic, like pressing unsubscribe on chaos. Then that night, another text came in. Not from Ilara this time, from Marcus. I don't know what's going on between you two, but Ilara's been at my place crying all day. Just thought you should know. I stared at the message for a moment and actually laughed. Marcus, the man himself, the ghost I'd been competing with for 3 years. He finally decided to reach out, like a reunion I never RSVP'd to. So I wrote back, thanks for the message. She's just keeping her word. Told the whole table you'll always have access. Looks like she's just honoring the deal. Then I put the phone down, turned off notifications, and finally exhaled. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was earned. A week passed, then another. Eventually, the calls stopped. The house stayed quiet, and for the first time, it didn't feel like waiting. It felt like living. News traveled fast. Apparently, Ilara didn't expect me to follow through. She told people I just needed space. Then she learned what space really meant. Paperwork and silence. Nora texted once, "She's a mess. She didn't think you'd actually go through with it." I didn't reply. Some things don't need closure. They just need distance. A few days later, I heard through a mutual friend that Marcus's new wife found out about Ilara's permanent access speech. Apparently, it went over about as well as a fire drill in a match factory. He cut back on visits. Boundaries, finally. Just not the kind Ilara expected. I didn't feel satisfaction. Just symmetry. She wanted 2 men to orbit around her. Now both had drifted away, and she was left spinning alone. One evening I was driving home from work when I stopped at a red light near the park. I saw Marcus's car there. He was helping Liam with a soccer ball, or at least trying. The kid kicked the ball, missed by a mile, and started laughing. Marcus laughed too. It was normal. And for the first time, I didn't feel tension in my chest. Just a kind of peace that says, you did the right thing, even if it hurt. When the light turned green, I drove on. That weekend, Mom made pancakes to celebrate new beginnings, which in her language meant, I'm proud, but I'll feed you until you cry. Dad just patted my shoulder. You handled it like a man, he said. Later that night, I sat on the porch with a beer and no agenda. The world felt lighter, not happier, just less cluttered. It's funny how peace doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like nothing's missing. I opened my phone, scrolled through old photos, the wedding, the dinners, the smiles that looked rehearsed now. I didn't delete them. I didn't need to. You only erase what still hurts. Then I looked at a picture of Liam holding his toy T-Rex and grinning like the world was simple again. It reminded me that not everything in that chapter was a mistake. Some things were just lessons with smaller shoes. Before I went to bed, I sent one last text. Not to Ilara, to Elliot. Thanks for the help, and for keeping it clean. He replied a minute later, clean's rare these days. Congrats on choosing dignity over drama. I smiled. He was right. When people ask what happened, I tell them the truth. Simple, boring, and clean. My wife said her ex would always have access to her. I said good luck and paid the check. And that's how my marriage ended. Politely, quietly, and on time. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.